Good afternoon, everyone. It's our immense pleasure to have with us Professor Dr. Shubkinkar Das. Sir is Professor, Department of Aquaculture, West Bengal University of Animal and Fishery Sciences, Kolkata. Uh, and the topic chosen for deliberation is biofloc technology in aquaculture. Sir, can you put your camera on and can you move to the PPT so that we could see those?
Okay, okay. Thank you very much. I have already switched on my camera, and it is coming just because the system is slow. Yes, it has come now. Okay, 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 okay. Thank you very much. So good afternoon, everyone. Right now we are 61 like this. Anyway, most of you are unknown to me, and I have gone through several known faces also here in the screen. Okay, so the topic of deliberation today, just I am going to present, that is biofloc technology in aquaculture. This is a very good topic, new topic, and with much hype and expectation also. Okay, so whether the screen is coming or not? No, it's not coming yet.
You need to start the slideshow. Start the slideshow, sir.
Yes, 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 yes. I'm going. The system is slow. Actually, it is coming.
No, it's not.
Uh, no, it is not coming. No.
You need to start the slideshow by going to the PPT. Let me help you. No, 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 don't do.
Okay,
Go,
okay, okay.
go to PPT, click on it.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. And at the bottom, yeah, click on the slideshow. Yeah, let it load.
It has come.
Yes.
Okay. So once again, warm welcome and good afternoon to each one of the participants and the organizers. And today, right now, the person who are dealing with the technical aspects of this program. So to start with directly, I am coming into the topic because biofloc technology in aquaculture, though in India it is a new topic, but it is not at all a new concept because it has been developed back elsewhere. But in our country, during the recent years, it has got some hype, some expectations, some propaganda, and whatnot. But we have to go through the details of what actually the subject is. Before that, so for the background is concerned, you all know because you all are learned people and senior fellows in your institute or university or anywhere else, that fish and shellfish need to feed lots of feed, and 70 to 80% remains within the culture unit. That is the access to the feed, actual access to the feed is around 20-25%, not more than that, and the rest is getting wasted into the system, and that is the waste not only of feed but also of money also, so far the production cost is concerned. And what is the consequence? There is accumulation of so many toxic residues, mainly in the form of sulfides and ammonia, and ultimately doing such type of intensification of fish growth is affected. So there is a scope of intensification within the closed system aquaculture, that is in pond culture system, it is getting limited. So what actually intensification relies upon? Intensification actually relies upon two aspects, that is the high stocking density. And when the stocking density is high, obviously we have to use a huge quantity of feed, and that too the feed is with a huge quantity of crude protein content. So ultimately, what is happening? The system is being loaded with high organic loading. That is, organic load is getting increased day by day, and it is causing some environmental pollution, and ultimately leading to disease and mortality of the desired stock itself. On the other side, if we have to mitigate such type of problem, the only option we have is to go for water exchange. But water exchange mechanism is not so easy and it is not cost effective. But there are several ways to do that. That is first one, this topic, and that is RAS system. It is also being hyped nowadays. That is recirculatory record system. Aquaponics, to some extent, it has got some momentum. And among the modern most technology, this today's topic, biofloc technology, is also there in the picture. If there is no intensification, then what will happen? There will be no increase in productivity and yield, very obvious, and less income and imbalance in demand and supply. What to do? We will opt for industrial aquaculture, whether it is fit for our country, in our system, in our economy. We will opt for 100% recirculatory aquatic system. That is a $1 million question, whether in our situation, in our country, in our perspective, they will be applicable or not. Suitability and cost components arise in the forefront. Now, so for biofloc technology or BFT is concerned, it is based on zero or limited water exchange and mechanism or concept. Actually, there is practically zero water exchange, and where mixing and aerating of the organic residues continuously is there with some aeration device, and that actually stimulates the bacterial buildup, that is the heterotrophic buildup. And this is the basic conversion, basic concept. And during that process of heterotrophic buildup, conversion of toxic nitrogen to cellular protein under conducive CN ratio occurs. Conducive CN ratio that I'm going to discuss in the next course of deliberation. Now, bacteria control water quality as bioremediator. There are two aspects. First one is that within this system, bacteria is acting as a bioremediator. That is, they are doing the job in situ, and they are acting as single cell protein feed consequently. This is nothing but the resource cycling, that is recycling within the system itself. So this is a brief overview where actually this system is being concentrated. Mostly you can see that is the this is the North American part, and this is the South American part, and this is the Mexico, Peru, like this. Here it has been concentrated, but the first technology it has been developed in 1980 in a French research institute. This is the background. And the lower picture, you can see how massively this technology is being used. This is a farm which I have visited very recently in Indonesia, a big shrimp farm where the farmers are effectively using this technology. Okay, so what are the principles behind it? The principles are that we have to stimulate heterotrophic bacterial growth, so that conversion of ammonia into microbial biomass in the form of single cell protein will be there. And that type of biomass should be in an aggregated form, that is in a flock situation, and that will in a suspended form. It is not that it will be diffused to individual item. So by that, what actually we are gaining, that is we are recycling the nutrient. We are recycling the nutrient by maintaining high CN ratio, and with that too with limited or zero water exchange. That is the most remarkable benefit of this system, because there is practically no water exchange, and more efficient use of nutrient input, because whatever nutrient we are giving within the system, that is recycled in the system itself, that is in situ production is there. That is in a nutshell the basic principles of your biofloc technology. Now, why it is floc? Because if you put some nutrients in any aquatic system, there will be production of heterotrophic microbial load. But what is new with this technology, and how floc is being formed? Mostly this is still unknown, but there are so many principles that, during the course of time that has been put forward by several scientists, and in brief, I am just discussing. It is a very complex process, so that it remains in a floc condition. That is very important. It should not be dispersed. Okay, that is extracellular polymeric substances that is produced by bacteria form a matrix and encapsulates the microbial cell and play a major role in binding the floc components together. So, in a case of bacteria, it may be dead, because bacteria never occurs in a single cell. They are in a colony. Some of the colony members, they may get died, and the cell will go through lysis. So during that procedure, and even from the living microbes also, there is a secretion of a number of compounds. Mostly these extracellular polymeric substances includes the glycoprotein, nucleic acid, like DNA, RNA, anything it may be, or it may be some polysaccharides, even some humic compounds also. So there the extracellular polymeric substances, they are negatively charged, and they form a capsule-like coating within the colony. So what happened next to the layer, because this type of organic extracellular polymeric compounds, they're negatively charged. Here the charges are negative. Okay, here, sorry. Yes, uh, they are negatively charged. So now the negatively charged extracellular polymeric substances, they determines the zeta potential. What is the zeta potential? Zeta potential is the electrokinetic potential of colloid dispersion. This is nothing but a subject of a very fine topic of physics. This zeta potential, it is in a true sense, or in practical sense, this is the potential difference between the surface of a solid that is immersed in water to that of its ambient charges. That is the difference in between the charges of that particle. It is obviously a solid particle immersed in water, and it is remaining in water. So its relationship, ionic relationship with its ambient, that is the water, this actually determines the zeta potential. Okay. So this outer membrane is negatively charged, and it will not remain so, because positively charged counter ions tightly fix the surface and forms a Stern layer. So this is the Stern layer. This is the Stern layer. You can see that the charges are positive here. So it is tightly being packed with negative and positive charges. Okay. Besides that, that is on the outer periphery, an iron cloudy layer will be formed. They will be called as a diffusive layer. This is the diffusive layer. Diffusive layer. So in between the diffusive layer and your Stern layer, yes, in your Stern layer, there will another plane, and because of the stress it will develop. It is called the shear plane. And because most of us are from the biological background, and the subject is of physical science subject, so it may be somewhat difficult to understand, but if you go through in detail after this deliberation, you can see that the topic is very interesting, so that this type of ionic balance imbalance is concerned. Okay, so the shear plane along the zeta potential, this is the zeta potential line, this line. That type of stress will form, and this particle will move along in its environment. Okay, so when it is moving, when such particle is moving through the water, some of the charges will be lost and form a shear plane at zeta potential that I have already discussed. This is the shear plane. That is because of the stress. Okay. So due to equal surface charges, particles are repelled from each other and are kept in dispersion, which is countered by another force, that is the very weak force though, that is van der Waals force. It may be of two types. It may attract some particles, or it may distract some particles. So ultimately, what will happen? Ultimately, the particles will be in a dipole situation. That is, they will have two polarity, that is positive and negative polarity. And in this case, most of the particles, they will not be allowed to disperse from each other. Rather, they will be clubbed together to form a flock. So the zeta potential, ultimately, what is happening at the end? That is, if we sum up the whole process, this zeta potential and the van der Waals force, they will act together, so that the flock will remain as a flock, not in a dispersed single cell particle. This is the bigger picture, and this is the picture of a ultra microscopic picture of a flock. Okay, through our study, we have developed this type of model, this type of mechanism, what is actually going on within the system. that is we are using high quality protein feed, either we are feeding fish or shrimps, and ultimately some amount it is getting out in the system as excrete or nitrogenous metabolites, and the major part as unutilized feed, and they are getting deposited at the substratum, that is at the mud water interface, and organic matter buildup is there. And ultimately through internal processing, that is the mineralization process, they are contributing to the total ammoniac and nitrogen. And from that ammoniac and nitrogen, if we trap this amount of total ammoniac and nitrogen, then there is production of single cell microbial protein. But in between there are some other process also. This total ammoniac and nitrogen, they may go through both way. Yeah, they may be oxidized or they may be reduced to nitrogen gas or ammonia gas evolution from the system. They may go out from the system also if it is not being trapped effectively. So in between, if we add some additional source of carbon, readily available carbon, so that the nitrogen and carbon ratio is maintained to its optimum, then with under high addition, then there will be heterotrophic buildup, and there will be no such loss of nitrogen, as well as there will be no such negative impact of this total ammoniac and nitrogen. So this is the concept we have developed in our study. And in this case, what is happening actually, mineralization of ammonia and conversion into nitrate and your single cell protein, it is 10 times faster than the autotrophic nitrifying bacteria that is operating in any aquatic system. So this system is actually 10 times faster so far the single cell protein generation is concerned. Okay. So what are the microbes? You all know that ammonia to nitrite includes this bacteria. Everybody knowing about this bacteria, and they are the nitrite oxidizing bacteria. Okay, I'm not going into the details of that. And now, what are the advantages? If you draw a line, distinctive line in between, then there are two basic advantages, levels of advantage. That is, first one is the within the system, so far the ecology of the culture is concerned, and another thing is that so far the economy of culture is concerned. So this part is ecological concern, and this part is economical concern. So if we discuss this part, so starting from this system, improve water quality. This system inhibit growth of pathogenic Vibrio bacteria population. This is particularly true in case of brackish water shrimp farming. We have our own experiments. I am going to the details afterwards. And this system can increase the probiotic potential of the culture system, and they produce bioactive compounds in the form of chloroquine, carotenoids, phytosterols, bromophenols, and all these things. And ultimately, they improve the biosecurity, and that too under zero or minimal water exchange system. So this is the ecological advantage of this culture type. And so far the economy is concerned, it is the increase in extracellular enzymes, improve digestion in fish. So this is at the physiological level. Another point, that is improved immunity and physiological performance. Another point of your stock, and enhance fish growth and reduce FCR. This is directly related to the economy. If the FCR is reduced, your feed requirement will be minimum, and increase nutrient utilization efficiency. This is somewhat connected. And in terms of economy, if we go for cost calculations, so the feed cost that is 15 to 20% of total cost, it will be reduced by 30 to 50%. So far the cost towards feed is concerned. So this is the advantage. We have divided it into two, ecological and economical components. So the main question is how to maintain a CN ratio, and what is the favorable CN ratio that is required to maintain a biofloc to its floc formation floc state. So CN ratio regulates the proliferation of heterotrophic bacteria, and it should be maintained at carbon 10 to 12 to 15. That is minimum 10 to maximum 12 to 15 carbon to 1 unit of nitrogen. And that is, this ratio should be maintained. And addition of carbohydrate in biofloc system is closely linked to the feeding rate and protein content of the feed, because what we have to add as carbon source, we have to consider in mind that we are also giving some feed to the stock. So from the feed itself, it is getting some amount of carbon, that is the system is getting enriched. So the calculation will be tricky to some extent because some portion of carbon it is getting from the feed, and the rest we have to provide. The calculation I am coming in the next projection. Okay. So organic carbon sources. What are the carbon sources usually used? That is, these are like starch, molasses, with bran, cellulose, dextrose, all these things. And the carbon content will change according to the dry matter composition and type of carbon source. Now, what type of carbon you are using, from that, the calculation will depend. And the microbial biomass in per unit substrate of heterotrophic bacteria is about 0.5 gram biomass carbon per gram substrate carbon used. This is the calculated ratio, that how much carbon substrate we are using and how much bacterial biomass we are getting. Okay, if other conditions are congenial or to its optimum. Now, in the case of emergency where total ammonia nitrogen levels are high, it is too high. If it is too high, then that is 20 milligram per liter carbohydrates should be added to reduce total ammonia level by 1 milligram per level. So 1 unit of total ammonia nitrogen equals to 20 milligram of per liter of carbohydrate. This is another estimate. When we want to maintain a steady or sustainable system of this type of bioflux based culture system, the thing is not so easy as it is being perceived there, or as it is being propagated through social media and everywhere. The thing is not so easy. You please have a proper idea about the subject, and then only you prescribe this thing to the lay ordinary farmers. Okay, that is another point that I will go at the last. I will come at the last when we will discuss. So, calculation of carbohydrate requirement for maintenance of carbon nitrogen ratio. So, we have some assumptions. That is, we are feeding fish at the rate of 2% of its body weight. Normally, we used to feed 4 to 5%, but here in case, because we are going through the bioflux culture system, the ration size has been reduced. That is our hypothesis. So we have taken 2%. Okay, so 20 gram feed is added per kg of fish per day. Very easy. For 1 kg, it is 20 gram, and from 20 gram, if we use that type of feed, and the feed is containing 25% protein, then this 20 gram feed is containing 5 gram of protein for per kg of fish per day. And as because protein is containing around 16% of nitrogen, so that is what is coming, that is 0.8 gram of nitrogen we are adding per kg of fish per day in the system. So this is the nitrogen input per day if we feed the fish with 2% of its body weight. And now, out of this total nitrogen input, how much the fish is absorbing through its physiological activity, and how much it is remaining in the system, that is a very important part. So, for the efficiency of any protein feed is concerned, it is maximally by 25% that we have taken in this calculation. So, on an average, 75% of the feed nitrogen ends up in water. That is ammonification of unwritten feed plus excretion. That way, they will get lost into the system, and the rest amount will be incorporated within the fish body. Okay. So 0.6 gram nitrogen per kg of fish per day ends up in water. So the calculation is getting closer, and now microorganisms need a CM ratio of around 10. This is another hypothesis or another assumption. So 6 gram carbon per kg fish per day needed for bioflux formation. So this is the nitrogen, and if the carbon ratio is 10 times multiplied, that is to maintain this ratio, then 6 gram carbon per kg fish feed per day is needed to maintain the bioflux in your system. Okay. Now, the amount of carbon source added will then depend on the carbon content of the carbon source. Now, we have determined how much carbon we need. Then we have to go through the inputs through which we can supply the necessary requirement of that very carbon. So, in case of acetate, if you add some acetate or glycerol, both containing 0.4 gram carbon per gram, then 15 gram of carbon source would be needed per kg of fish per day. The system is closer, and it is very simple if we have some proper assumption and proper data, baseline data. Okay. And here are some examples. Usually the farmers are using that type of carbon sources, and this is the content of organic carbon in that resources. Okay. Now, calculation of carbon ratio based on total ammoniac level in the ongoing culture, where the culture is going on already. What to do? So initially the carbon source applied based on the amount of feed and the protein percentage of the feed applied. Later during the culture period, as the flock level increase and available nitrogen source increases due to unutilized feed, excretion, all these things, then the carbon addition should be based on total ammoniacal nitrogen level in the culture system. So the culture has already been matured. You are going through the culture, say in a 4 months or 5 months cropping system. You are in the midway, say 2 months or 3 months have already elapsed. So how to calculate? Then we have to go this carbon requirement with total ammoniac and nitrogen level in the system. So as per the previous reports on CN ratio, if the total ammoniac and nitrogen level goes beyond 1 milligram per liter, the carbon source addition is recommended with CN ratio of 6:1. This is from the report. Though we want to maintain around 10:1. But if total ammoniac and nitrogen level goes beyond that, that is more than 1 milligram per liter, too high level, then it is better to stick to this 6:1. Okay. So this is the calculation. If we measure 1.5 milligram per liter total ammoniac and nitrogen in a 15,000 liter tank, because your culture tank is of width of this volume, and per liter nitrogen ammoniac and nitrogen is 1.5 milligram liter, then carbon source as rice flour with 40% carbon content. Then this because 1.5 milligram means 0.0015 gram into this amount liter. This is also in kg. So 22.5 gram of total ammoniac and nitrogen is there in your system, that is in your 15,000 liter tank. So if we want to maintain the carbon nitrogen ratio at 6:1, then 6 into this amount, that is 135 gram of carbon will be required. And 135 gram of carbon, if it is required, then we know that that organic matter is 2 times higher than the carbon content of any material. This is the thumb rule. Actually, there may be some deviation and may not be, but it is a thumb rule in our parlor in the practitioners level, that organic carbon if multiplied by 2 is equal to organic matter. So 135 gram of carbon if it is required, then we have to add 337.5 gram of rice flour in the system. Okay. So measurement of biofloc volume, this is another important part and a tricky part. Actually, this depends upon the, this indicates the success of your culture, how much amount of biofloc you have in your system. So biofloc formation is measured by the floc settlement. Everybody knows it is through a Inhofe cone by pouring 1 liter of cultured water, and it is stayed for say 10-20 minutes for settlement, and the desired range is range of settleable solid concentration should be 10 to 15 milliliter per liter. So with 1 liter of water, it is getting a rest for 10-15 minutes, it is getting settled, and the this volume is getting measured to 10 to 15 milliliter per liter. If it is there, then it is ideal. Okay. Now media preparation. Actually, what we have done in our experiment, because I am there in this subject from the year 2015 onwards. So what we have tested, actually, we have not prepared any media of our own, but rather we have tested the farmers' media. The farmers usually using that type of media. We have tested that how much it is scientific and what is the basis of their media composition. So what we have done with their media composition is fresh water 100 liter, agricultural soil 20 gram, rice bran this amount, molasses, edible curd, and this is as probiotic, and in addition water probiotic, commercial grade probiotic, and yeast powder, all mixed with boiling of rice, that is the broken rice, actually not good rice, and whey everyone knows, that is 45 liters. So this is the composition the farmers are using in West Bengal, particularly in the East Midnapur district, in their brackish water farming practices, and we have tested that type of media in our experimental condition. Okay, so this is the different sources of carbon, very easily available: rice bran, wheat flour like this, jaggery, molasses, curd, probiotic, yeast powder, and agricultural soil. This is for addition. Why? The question may be that why you are using agricultural soil? Agricultural soil because the topsoil that is from any agricultural field, it is very rich in at least bacillus, if not lactobacillus. So this is for used as an inoculum actually. Okay. Now, during the media preparation, all the ingredients are mixed together and kept in aerated condition. So during the first stage of its fermentation, that is aerobic fermentation, the color will be like this, and after 2-3 days, the color will be like this. Fantastic color with some smell also, not bad smell, but this color will be there, and this is the very important because you have to judge whether the fermentation is complete or dead or not. It depends upon the color. In my next projection also you will go through several colors because in the field condition this is the only instrument you have. Okay, so yellow color media after fermentation you will get. Now media preparation is carried out in FRP tank, empty plastic barrel in presence of vigorous erosion. All the components and left for 48 to 72 hours. Then colors turn yellowish. Sieve the this material will have to be sieved because if you use raw in the field as inoculum media in your culture pond, there may be some fungal infestation because of the particulates. So it should be sieved. So sieve the fermented juice with cloth, apply in the culture system at the rate of 12 to 15 milliliter per liter of water. So this is the first thing. And second thing, I was discussing the color. So this is green, 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 green. Slowly the color is getting changed. Slowly the color is getting changed, and ultimately it is coming here. So what does it indicate? If the watercolor in your culture system is green, then predominant pathway that is going on in your system is through algal pathway. Again, it is another green. So all these greens, and ultimately when it is getting mixed somewhere, it is getting mixed somewhere with your brown color. It has mixed some to some extent, more mixing, more mixing, more mixing like this way. So ultimately, what is happening? There is succession of this algal community from algal to algae bacteria, then again algae bacteria, then the dominance of bacteria over the algae. It starts from brown grain. Okay, so when the color turns brown grain, the dominance of bacteria begins over algae, and ultimately when it is browner and browner, the bacteria is dominating, and there is less presence of algae. So this is very important so for the color chart is concerned. Okay. Now, types of biofloc, there are several types of biofloc. In situ biofloc it may be, because in situ biofloc means you can add the media itself into your culture tank, or you can culture floc separately and add the floc to your stock. So based on the contributing microorganisms, three basic types of bioflocs: green, it may be black, or it may be brown biofloc systems. They have been categorized. Okay, so brown flocks are more heterotrophic and get better stability to pond, nutritionally better and more predictable. So our intention is to go through this color of biofloc. Okay, the bacterial biomass need to be in suspension through constant aeration. This is very, very important. Until and unless it is getting in a suspended condition, if you go back to the floc formation theory, then there will be no tension in between the van der Waals force and your dipole movement, iron movement, and all these things. So it should be in a suspension, and for that only continuous aeration system should be there. Now, management and control mechanism. Floc volumes typically measure 2 to 4 milliliter per liter during the first 1 to 2 months. Then it increased to 6 to 20 milliliter per liter during the latter course. So it needs some latency period. You have to wait for achieving this level of thickness, or this level of richness of your floc. So it will take at least 1 to 2 months. Okay. So total soluble solids should be managed to be less than 300 ppm to reduce aeration requirements. Okay, if the soluble solids are more than that, more aeration will be needed, and that will not be economic. And with carbon addition, total ammonia and nitrogen can be limited to this. We have discussed that more than 1 ppm, then what will happen, that we have already discussed. Okay. So the pH should be controlled by addition of lime, dolomite, or bicarbonate to its towards its neutrality, that is near 7, because most of the microbes, they work best at that type of pH, that is when the pH is near neutral. Okay. So controlling the unregulated growth of biofloc in the pond system is required to avoid a number of critical problems like declining oxygen level and increase in sludge. If the floc density is too much, then the diurnal fluctuation of dissolved oxygen will be, and you know that what will happen to the stock if the diurnal fluctuation of dissolved oxygen is at its maximum. So that should be avoided also. That is the other part of the story. That is the problem of excess. Okay, so there should not be any excess production, and it will increase the sludge content of the system. Okay, so there are some parameters what to do and what not to, and what are the ideal parameters. That is, biofloc system is more efficient when the water temperature is between this 28 to 30 degree, and nitrifying bacteria can support a range of 8 to 30 degrees centigrade, but efficiency is reduced by 50% at 16 degree and by 80% at 10 degree. When the temperature is reducing, because the most of the enzymatic activity, including our bacteria, they also reduced when the temperature drops. So this is the estimation how much their efficiency will be reduced depending upon the temperature. So you should be very careful. So for the environmental temperature is concerned, now dissolved oxygen should be maintained at 7 to 8 ppm to ensure proper functioning of the system. This is natural. Now alkalinity, that should be kept between 100 to 150 ppm as calcium carbonate by regular addition of sodium bicarbonate. Here, this is a typical one, because we usually go for addition of your agricultural lime, that is calcium carbonate. But here it is better to go for sodium bicarbonate, so far your biofloc system is concerned. Now, every kilogram of feed added to the system should be supplemented with 0.25 kilogram of sodium bicarbonate. So this is, in other words, some amount of alkalinity that will be supplemented through your feed if you add some amount of, that is 0.25 kilogram of sodium bicarbonate along with your feed for every kilogram of your feed requirement. Okay. Now, total suspended solid in the range of 250 to 450 milligram per liter ensures efficient bacterial activity. This is from literature we have collected, and the recommended ammonia concentration in biofloc culture is also less than 1.5 ppm. We have already discussed over 1 ppm what will happen. Okay. So nitrite nitrogen concentration should be less than 2 ppm. This is not a very matter of concern, because nitrite is very unstable in any aquatic ecosystem, and it will never go beyond this ppm because it is very unstable. Okay, but for theoretical sake, we must know the critical level of concentration. That is why I have cited here. Now, nitrate concentration should be not exceedingly by 10 ppm. And these are the critical parameters and monitoring schedule. Why and how far, what is the frequency of monitoring of your water quality parameters in practical field. Mainly few water quality parameters should be monitored on daily basis, and others should be once in every 3 days, that is weekly. You can go for estimation 2 times only. Now, dissolved oxygen pH, temperature, turbidity can be monitored twice a day, whereas ammonia, nitrate, and ammoniacal nitrogen can be monitored on daily basis. These are very important because the system relies on this. Okay, that is why it should be maintained or monitored on daily basis. And total heterotrophic count, certainly it is aerobic heterotrophic count, can be monitored on every 3 days. Algal community, alkalinity, hardness, salinity can be measured once in a week. And floc volume should be maintained at 10 to 40 milliliter per liter. So these are the critical points you have to monitor, and the frequency that I have maintained already. Now, aeration, this is very important, aeration. And the economy of the system depends largely on this because of the energy cost of the system. That is why aeration we should consider in detail. Okay. Now, BFT requires high aeration or mixing with aerators and blowers to provide dissolved oxygen and to remove carbon dioxide. Why we are going for aeration? Because of all these purposes, to keep biofloc in suspension and to prevent the production of nitrogenous metabolites, sulfides, and organic acids. This is well known to everyone. You are so learned people. Now, aeration requirement, how much, what is the calculation, how much aerator and how many numbers we have to apply. This is very practical point of consideration. Okay. So 1 horsepower for every 200 to 250 kg of biomass. So you have to estimate your stock, how much biomass you are putting in your system, that is, it is existing in your system. Accordingly, you have to employ horsepower unit, that is 1 horsepower for this quantity of biomass. And there are three categories of aeration methods. You know, they are surface aerator, diffuser, and all these things. And that is very basic. Now, aeration requirements, some calculation is there. Aeration requirements depend on stocking density, feeding rate, and DOD. This is very important. What is DOD? Dissolved oxygen at dawn. This D is for dawn. That is early morning DO. This is the most critical unit of measurement, because usually we go for measurement during our office hours at 10, 11 in the morning. But the most critical unit of dissolved oxygen measurement should be like this DOD, that is dissolved oxygen at dawn, particularly in swim ponds. Okay, so it is related with this type of presentation. F by A equal to 28.83 minus 4.31 into DO. This is DOD actually, where F is equal to 5-day average feeding rate. How much feed you have applied on an average, that is kg per hectare per day. And A is the aeration rate, that is how many horsepower per day per hectare you have employed, and DOD, that is DO concentration milligram per liter at dawn. So this is the relationship, and with that relationship you have to go for employing a number of aerators and consider its power, that is how much horsepower you are providing to the culture tank. Okay, there are ring blowers, air pumps, root blowers. I am not going into the details. These are some machineries, pumps, what we can have to apply, and these are the requirements. This is very important so far. Our beginners are concerned. We have to some polythene tarpaulin sheet, some iron mace, LDP protection sheet, because there are two layers of protection. If we construct a system with the iron mace and covered with both these, okay, there are PVC pipes. And types of tank, this may be of different types. I'm not going into the details because I have to stick to the timeline. And these are the molded tanks, and they are the cemented cisterns. It may be rectangular, may be circular, maybe in multiple unit, even in tires also. Okay, so why it is not moving? Why it is not moving? Oh. And yes, sir, I am audible. Anyone?
Yes,
Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
You are
sir. Yes,
audible,
sir. You
sir.
are audible.
Anyone? I am.
Yes, sir. You are
Okay.
audible, sir.
Because because my system in between it got stuck. Okay. So in our culture system, you have to very careful. What is the color of the surface water in your system, where the in situ biofloc you have employed? So if there is a foaming of water surface, because this is a very peculiar problem in any bioflux system, particularly in earthen ponds, you can see that there are some glittering points, though very small. There are some glittering points. Okay, it is visible. It is visible here because this picture has been taken during the night time or late evening time. You can see that there are some just glittering points. They are nothing but they are bioluminescent Vibrio population. So if that type of foaming on water surface is huge, it is indicating that harmful Vibrio species has been developed in your system. But if the water is at the surface is clear, then it indicates that it is dominated by beneficial probiotic species. So it may be lactobacillus, it may be bacillus like this. So this is for practitioners thumb rule at in the field condition. You have to be very careful what is the condition of your surface water, whether it is heavily frothing or whether it is almost clear. In the beginning, there may be such type of happening, but when the system matures, then your system will be like this, come and cool, the water will be turdy, but it is not with such a huge quantity of foams. Okay. Now, suitable species in biofloc technology. This is a multi-million question. I am not taking part of this presentation, but I am just citing the National Fishery Development Board. They have published some fishes that which are suitable, but I have somewhere some reservations regarding the this catfish magur singi. I have my own reservation as per my findings. Some albino maguts are also there. Anyway, so this is as because this is to some extent government data, that is why I have cited here. But be very careful, particularly the scaleless fishes, magu and singi, and you have to keep in mind that what is its feeding habit, the carnivorous fish, whether they can effectively graze upon the heterotrophic flock or not. That is the real basic question. Okay, I am not going into any controversy right now here, and proceeding to my next presentation. This is from our own experimental setup and from our own findings, because almost 6 years we are doing some job in the farmers field as well as in our outdoor facility also. So if this type of mat is there, it indicates the algal mat. It is not good in your biofloc culture system. But if the color is like this color is ideal color where biofloc is a mixture of bacteria and algae. This is okay, but this must be avoided. The things are very tricky, and it is not at all easy, and it's not a layman's technology until and unless the basic concepts are clear. Okay, now measurement of biofloc volume as the days advanced of your culture system. Here you can see that our culture system was 105 days of Venus Venami culture in Midnapur district. So biofloc volume, there are two media we used. One is with neem, you know, Azadirachta indica. The farmers are using some neem leaves in their media. That is why we have tested whether it is logical, it is judicious to apply neem leaves in the flock media. So we have estimated how the flock volume increases when the time is also increases, and it is going to its optimum level during 60 almost 60 days, that is 2 months of culture. Okay. So if you go for proximate analysis, you have developed a good quantity of biofloc, but that is not all. You have to go for its proximate content, how much protein is there in it, how much other nutritional properties are there in it. So in our study, we have seen that the crude protein content, it is also increased, and it is optimal near 75 days of culture. So you have to wait more than 2 months to have a good quality of biofloc, which is containing maximum amount of crude protein, because that is our intention, that is our hypothesis. Okay. So along with protein, carbohydrate will go on increasing, and this is reverse in case of ash, and crude lipid content, it will go down and down in both the media we have used. Okay. So now this is the most important part, because during my earlier projection in the beginning, we have fixed two objectives. First one is the system bioremediation, and another thing is that biofloc will act as single cell protein. So for the system bioremediation, so for the luminous Vibrio, that is pathogenic bacteria, is concerned, here we have fitted some equation in this way. This is the lactobacillus population, and this is the luminous Vibrio. Mostly they are pathogenic bacteria, and they cause havoc in the shrimp culture ponds. So you can see that how it is behaving, negatively behaving. When the lactobacillus population is go on increasing, there is a drastic fall of this luminous Vibrio population, and this is not in any experimental culture system. This is actual farmers field condition in East Midnapur. That is in the Kontai region. We have tested in urban ponds in the farmers field itself. Okay, this is the same. One is without neem. This is without neem extract, and this is with neem extract. And now this is the fitted relationship of cumulative changes in population of luminous Vibrio species, Bacillus cereus and Lactobacillus in water. This is without neem leaves, and this is with neem leaves in the medium. So you can see that this is the negative change. This is the negative change. This is the negative change. Your luminous Vibrio species is concerned, and these are the other bacterial groups. First one is Bacillus and Lactobacillus. They are behaving when the culture period is going on like this way. So this is the cumulative change. In due course of time, the system health will be like this. The pathogenic bacteria, they will automatically be out from the system, or they will be minimized, they will be marginalized consequent to the increase of the other two beneficial bacteria. So this is the most important restoration, in situ restoration or bioremediation process that will go on parallelly when the culture will progress. Okay, now a similar thing. This is in sediment. Previous one was in water phase, and this is in sediment phase. And besides that, from our own observation, we have seen that bioflux favored phosphorus mineralization also. That has never been reported, and it has been published in a very good journal. I'm going into that detail afterwards. So we have seen that phosphorus mineralization has also gets benefited from a bioflux system and became limited in maintaining the balance between available nitrogen and phosphorus when the phosphorus goes beyond this concentration 0.065. This is the critical condition. Beyond, if it is beyond that level, then the maintenance of ratio in between nitrogen and phosphorus will not be, and it will be limited in that situation. You would know nutrient limitation. So on that way, I am using the terminology limited. Okay. So phosphate mineralization was more favored in the absence of neem extract and bioflux medium where supplementary feed acted as an organic carbon source. So without neem extract, this mineralization, this is phosphate mineralization within the bioflux culture system. It has given better result, because you know in the neem extract there are so many antibacterial agents. They might have acted upon the phosphate mineralizing microbes, that is the PSBs. That is why the farmers should be very careful whenever they are using in a rampant way such amount of neem extract. It should be in a judicious amount, not at random. Okay. Also, though neem leaf extract in the bioflux medium inhibited nitrification, yes, it has inhibited nitrification also. It served as a nitrogen source in the inorganic nutrient pool of the culture system. So this is our own observation. And now limitation. What are the limitations that should be addressed very carefully? To sustain the bioflux, high stocking density biomass of this is required. Until unless such high stocking density of your desired stock is there, it may be shellfish, it may be finfish, there will be no grazing, then the system will be a highly polluted system with so much abundance of flock. There is pH fluctuation, there will be dissolved oxygen fluctuation, there will be more and more your debris formation, organics loading, and all these things. So that is why high stocking density you have to maintain. Now, since oxygen is very critical, addition and energy cost increases. That is that I have indicated earlier also. And what is the energy cost? Now, the relationship between flux size and mixing intensity is D equal to Cg to the power minus x. So what does it indicate? Where D is the maximum stable flux size, very good. G is the average velocity gradient. P is the flux strength component, and X is the stable flux size component. And if you go for calculating in details, because I have concised here, compacted here, that is why the details are not here. Optimal power input for flux formation is 0.1 to 10 watt per meter cube. Okay. Ultimately, we have to calculate in terms of your energy requirement, in terms of your electricity requirement. So this is the optimum power requirement per meter cube, 0.1 to 10 watt per meter cube. So if we need 24 into 7 hours electricity requirement, then we can estimate that huge quantity of electrical requirements are there. It involves more technically and understanding of the system. Also, it is that some technical persons, those who knows the technique, they are needed in this system, and proper understandings must have been there before venturing into this mostly popularized or mostly hyped culture system. Okay, so startup time period required. In our case, we have seen that 2 months at least it required as startup time. You have to go through it. You have to wait for that, and limited progress due to lack of proper technical and infrastructure facilities and restrictions. If there is improper technical and infrastructure facilities, then the system will be limited, and in most cases, the failure is because of that. Because some success stories, there are a lot more videos, mostly originating from our neighboring country, and people are being duped. But there are so many failure stories also because of the improper technical and infrastructure facilities and knowledge. Okay, so this is the synthesis of my own technology, populism, and practical dilemma. This you can please go through it. So if we analyze the crude, say this is the crude protein content of feed, starting from 10%, 15%, 20%, 25%, like this, up to 45%. I have put it here in this axis, and on the other axis there is CN ratio, carbon nitrogen ratio. Why I have put it? I am just discussing. Okay, so I have taken so many number of feeds starting from 10 to 45%, and the CN ratio I have plotted against it. Okay. So the relationship is like this. The relationship is like this. The relationship is like this. Okay. So what we need for bifloc formation, we need a CN ratio around where that is more than 10, 11, around 11, like this, 11 to 15. I have mentioned already. So in what type of feed we are getting that type of CN ratio? That is starting from here only. Starting from here only. That is, if you apply more than 30% or around 30% CP containing feed, that is crude protein containing feed, then only you are getting your desired carbon nitrogen ratio. Okay, and if you use less protein containing feed, say 15%, obviously the CN ratio is more than that. So what is the use of adding your system with carbon, some nitrogen, and going for this cumbersome method of culture and all these things? Okay, so this is applicable. This protein, you can see, you can visualize that this starts from shrimp to catfish culture system, because we use usually this crude protein containing feed for the shrimp and catfishes only. But why for our carps, where we use feed in this range around 18 to 20% as supplementary feed, and obviously where the CN ratio is more than our our requirement. So this is a very tricky subject. People are opting for culturing anything starting from your catfish, starting from your carp, starting from your shrimp, because the technology has been started in shrimp culture system, where they usually use 30% or more percentage of protein containing feed, and there it is ideal because you have to apply some additional amount of carbon to have an ideal ratio of carbon nitrogen around 15. Okay, so this is the basic concept. We have to argue, we have to make debate whether to go or not to go, what are the advantage, what are the economic cost, ecological cost, and so many so things. Now I am just giving you some glimpse of our own work. This is published in 2018 in aquaculture, and this is in applied aquaculture. This is also in 2018 maybe, or 19, I can't remember right now. And this is from USA. This is in the year 2018, and this is in one in our Indian journal 2019. And this is from France, Aquatic Living Resources, a highly rated journal in France. It is in fresh condition. We have not got any DOI right now. Another one is also in the same issue of Aquatic Living Resources, also from France. The DOI we have not yet got. And this is one interesting presentation, that is see no evil. If you don't see no evil with your data, then you can submit, you can publish your data file itself in a database, and that I have done just a day before yesterday in a very good database system. This is in France. Okay, so this is another publication. And before that, just before the lockdown and this pandemic, I have visited Indonesia as a keynote speaker to deliver on this subject, and that has been organized by IRD. This is the quasi-government organization of the French government, and he is my French friend. So many of my friends here, including some from Australia and some from other Ghana, etc. So many people. And before that, I have presented in Colombo itself on this technology, bioplug technology. And I am not citing anymore because I have also presented in Bangkok also. So thanks for patience. And to my belief, I have finished within time as per the organizers of 1 hour limitation. Thank you very much. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Now, if there are any questions, please ask.
Yes, yes. I am open to all.
Good afternoon, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, if in indoor tank, in small indoor tank, when we're culturing nursery period, if there is foaming in the water, what should be the solution for that?
You are culturing what actually?
Sir, spawn to fry of
No.
rohu.
Prohu, okay. So you are culturing spawn to fry of Prohu in a small culture tank, because most of the failure stories in this sector is because of the smallness of the culture unit. Because very often the lay farmers, they have been rather duped. I'm sorry to use this type of technology because from our own people, they have never tested any media, they have never gone through any experimentation, they don't have sufficient knowledge on the subject, but they are making some what to say, expertise system to the farmers, and the farmers are doing the job in their backyard, say in a cement system like this way, and there are failures, there are disease, there are so many things. So the main constraint is that if the system is very small, it will not work properly. First thing, okay. And second thing is spawn to fry, because when we are stocking spawn to our nursery system, they are very new to their environment. They don't know what is a feed, what is a non-feed, and all these things, and their movement during the early stage of development is mostly vertical movement, not horizontal movement. So that is why in nursery pond we used to apply a feed that would remain in the floating condition over the water surface. That is why the supplementary feed is being applied as a powder, so that it can float sufficient time duration at the surface floor, and when they will break down the surface because of their vertical movement, they can easily engulf it. Okay, so these points you have to consider. Okay, please.
Okay, sir. So if foaming is there, what should be the solution?
What I can get you, just repeat again.
So you told in one of your slide you mentioned that the foaming problem is there.
Yes, foaming
So
problem is, yes. Ultimately,
what should be the
initially,
solution
yes,
for that?
I got it. Because initially this is a very natural occurring. Don't be panicked. because after a night, if you say, just for argument's sake, I am telling, then take is otherwise, because we have experimented like this way. If you can go for a bath into that type of pond after night, then your whole body will be glittered. The population density of these luminous Vibrio is to such extent of density. But ultimately, when the system will mature, when the bacillus and lactobacillus they will start upon, and they will overcompete those pathogenic luminous Vibrio from the system, and they will be outcompeted. But one thing you have to do, that you have to regularly clean the froth, that is the foam from your system. You can you have to skim it and left it out from the system. Okay, this is the thing the farmers are also practicing in their field itself.
Okay, sir. So, in a form, what should be the ideal positionings of the
Ideal positioning of the
aeration?
aerators.
Means aeration points.
Aeration points. So it depends upon your culture tank, whether it is a circular one, it is a rectangular one, its depth, and what is the actual volume. Actually, how much is the requirement? How much one individual pump set is with how much horsepower. So all these things, it is better to go for some split aerator. That is, you have a total requirement of say 5 horsepower. So better to go for 5 units of 1 horsepower each, so that and you have to place it in such a way that because it is not a judicious approach. It is not go for prescribing you anything sitting just before a monitor. So you have to judge your situation, that at what point I can fix my aerator, so that it will be well mixed, the whole system will be well mixed. It is a practitioner's application, and its intuition at the field level itself. Okay, but you have to be considerate that if the total energy load is 5 horsepower, better to go for 5 units of 1 horsepower each, and place it at 5 different places, not in a single position. Okay.
Okay.
What is the hardness of background tank? Or what?
Excuse me, I can't get you. Your voice is completely cracking. If somebody can interpret. Your voice is cracking, sir. I am not getting. Our technical person, will you please help me, because I am unable to hear him.
Hello, sir.
Can you type it in the chat?
Yes.
Can the
So,
question
what
be
is the
chat
proper
typed?
hardness of biofloc tank?
What?
What is the
What?
proper hardness?
What is the proper hardness of the biofloc tank?
Biofloc
He's
tank, it
asking,
is.
sir.
Yes. I have got it, and it was there in my presentation. Yes, I am going through the slide again. If you want, okay. Because I have gone through. It is near somewhere near 200 to 300 milligram per liter in terms of calcium carbonate, not any other type of hardness. It may be from ferrous, it may be from ferric, it may be from aluminum, not that type of hardness, but it is in terms of calcium carbonate hardness. Okay.
Thank you.
Hello, sir.
Any more?
Sir,
Yes.
so we
Yes.
would like to establish one unit, sir, for demonstration purpose at Visakhapatnam.
Yes,
So where we will get all the material, sir?
that is not my point of concern, sir, because I am only a university teacher, and I can give you some idea that these materials are necessary, but locally you have to investigate that because there are so many companies, they are supplying the total unit also. Okay. But right now in a official class, I could not give the names. Okay, because this is the commercial venture. There are so many companies. You just go through the net. They are supplying, not only supplying, they are installing the whole system also. Number of companies. Okay,
sir.
Okay.
Hello, sir. Good afternoon.
Yes, Rajesh. Rajesh,
Yes, sir. Very nice presentation, sir. You have
thank you very much, because thank you very much.
Pantnagar University, sir.
I am listening very properly your lectures.
Okay,
Sir,
thank you very much.
Sir, basic question. Sir, presentation is very nice. You have very nicely given this lecture. Sir, I am asking you, which is a very suitable species to culture
Yes, yes, yes.
biofloc? Basically, it is viable
I,
technology for
I
many
got it.
species.
I got it. I got your point. I got your point.
Sir, sir.
Actually, sometimes I myself also got puzzled because of the ongoing literatures, ongoing tube videos, and all this nonsense thing that is there in the sector. And I have discussed a full session regarding this in Bogor, Indonesia, that whether this will continue, this should be allowed to continue like this way, because people, they never ever have gone through any experimentation. They don't have any idea. I know very big bosses are there in the field also. They are doing business simply. And that is why you just imagine, because you are fishery student, each and everyone, those whoever in the screen, you are fishery student at least, and myself also, I am fishery student. So we have to consider which fish at which level, that is its habitat niche and feeding niche, that we at the very beginners level we have to just consider. So catfish, it is purely carnivorous fish, it's a bottom dweller. It doesn't have efficacy to filter out all these grazing type of feed. It may be plankton, it may be heterotrophs, it may be frogs, it may be scums, anything else. But rampantly it has been prescribed that you go for culturing catfish because it is fetching much amount in the market, say for Clarias, say for Heteropneustis, and ultimately what is happening, you know, they are scaleless fish. And that type of environment, upon your visual identification, you can conclude that this system is a polluted system, and we are allowing such type of pollution because of our own purpose, because the system is heavily loaded with organics, organic carbon, nitrogen, all these things. So the scaleless fish under that type of polluted environment, and there are Vibrio I have mentioned already, though they are in check, there are more some pathogenic bacteria. And what is happening, there are so many cases of losses that the fish, mostly the catfish, they got damaged because of ulcerations and all these things. Okay, so you should have to be careful that what the fish we are going to culture, it should have a proper gill system to filter out all these filter feeds, though they are in a flock condition. What is the size of a flock? Only some micrometer, not in centimeter, decimeter like this. Though they are in flock, they starts from nanometer, and ultimately 30 to 200 micrometer is its size. So they have to filter out. They have some their own anatomical mechanism. Whether the catfish will do that, you should ask yourself before venturing into that type of species selection. Okay, so it is better, universally it is accepted that omnivorous fishes are more suitable. Okay, thank you, brother. Thank you.
Sir.
Thank
Sir,
you.
what will be the stocking density in the biofloc? How much per cubic meter?
That depends upon your species. Okay, that depends upon your species, and that depends upon your volume also, because volume is very important whenever you are going to install that type of system. Never go for any small volume culture tank if your intention is to go for commercial farming. Someone from the faculty, maybe he was requesting for some material for the demonstration purpose. Yes, in the university level, in the college level, this is okay for the students demonstration, but not for any commercial venture. We must go into the backyard farming system, like in a cement system like this way. So it all depends upon your species of culture, duration of your culture, and the volume of your culture tank, brother. Okay, the system is the technology is not so simple. Please don't be duped. Please don't be overexcited. Please don't advertise, because we don't have any responsibility to advertise it so that the farmers will be in trouble, and ultimately they are in trouble. Okay.
Sir, how much production we can get if this biofloc system is viable to culture for getting the commercial fishes? Culture period we can decide, sir, for
No, usually, if you are talking about your finfish, maybe that your question tone like that way. If you are going for say a finfish, because you know most of the research works in this field, they have been originated in the shrimp ponds, and still it is concentrated in shrimp farming system. Okay, though we have experimented with say tilapia, we have experimented with rohu, we have experimented with common carp, three carp species we have investigated, but except common carp, other two species, they are a damn failure. To my experimentation, they are damn failure in our system, because our system was also very small. The common carp, because you know they are very hardy species among the carps, among the 6 species, it is the hardiest species, so they can withstand that type of polluted situation, and they are truly omnivorous, so they perform well, but not the rohu, not the tilapia. So it depends upon the culture species that what is your choice actually. Okay, so it's not a straightway technology. Okay, please do consider all the points.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you for giving such a nice this presentation and answer. Satisfy me, sir. Sir, last can you clear my
Yes.
voice also?
Yes, I can hear, but if the organizers allow you, then you can go on questioning. I will be here, and I will be happy to hear you, because I am also a student, and if it is interacted, then I can get something from you also. Okay.
Okay, sir. Sir, within the month, it is expected that how much weight gain we can get in the biofloc system? Whether we can go for the seed production, seed production technology for this means production of fry of fingerling
of carp
fingerlings.
So fry production should be started from your spawn. Okay, so 3 or 4 days old newborn baby, so it will be a risky one to my concept, because during that stage they don't have the ability to digest the plant part, because the system has not yet been developed during that age, 3 to 4 days old newborn baby. So they are obviously zooplankton eaters, but our flock is not solely the animal composed of from animal components. There are filamentous algae also, there are some other diatoms also. Okay, so that part they will remain unutilized, and during that early feeding stage, during the nursing stage of the newborn baby, it will not be a wise approach to provide them with that type of mixed say hodgepodge feed. Better we can provide them with purely zooplankton, that too very minute zooplankton in the form of rotifer. That is why in the nursery pond we use raw cow manure to allow fuller decomposition of that manure in the pond system itself, so that bacterial build-up will be there, upon bacterial build-up in the successive level, rotifer populations will be in huge quantity, and after that only we introduce 3 or 4 days spawn to feed that type of ideal feed, because we have to be very selective to that stage, life history stage of fish. During that time their mouth gap is very small, their gastrointestinal tract has not yet been developed properly, so we have to be very selective in providing them natural feed. So it will be a risky one to me, to my concept. I may be wrong also, because I am also a student of this subject, but so far my understanding on the subject goes, it will be a risky one.
Okay, sir. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay.
Sir, I think we have gone over our allotted time.
Yes.
On behalf of the participants and on behalf of the organizing committee, I would want to express our gratitude to you, sir. Thank you for this lovely presentation, and the interaction at the end was so much helpful in clearing doubts and answering questions. Thank you very much, sir, for being with us. Thank you.
Oh, okay. Thank you again, participants, my dear participants, and you are the young workers. Though you will be there in the field, so try for the betterment of this science, not for popularization. That is not your duty. So please stick to the principles, stick to the basic, and try to develop the future of this subject, because this is a very bright subject. And sometimes I may be frustrated because our days are limited. We are almost on the verge of our ending our career. So it is your responsibility to carry forward. Thank you all, and hope all the best to you, each and every one of you. Thank you very much. And Majid said you are also very thankful, and I am thankful to my net provider who has not betrayed me, because I was very anxious whether my net connection will be there or not. Okay, after all, thank you very much. Okay.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for joining. Let's join back tomorrow at 11. Thank you. Bye, everyone.